So we had discussed about um, different types of authentication theoretically in one of our videos. In this video, we will be talking about their, practical implementation. And as always, we will be using our favorite Next.js, which is a full stack framework, lets you create front end and back end at the same place. And if you are new to React ecosystem, if you are new to learning React, I would say check React, start with Next. In that way, you will learn React as well as concepts of backend, web authentication, middleware, and all. So I would highly recommend if you are new to React, instead of diving into React ecosystem, start with Next. Basically, Next is nothing but a overlay on React, and it makes your life, it'll let you expose into different domains without putting in much effort. Otherwise, if you learn backend, you will have to set up all that node server, do all that coursing thing and stuff. That is taken care internally by the Next.js. Okay. So coming to our use case here, I'm using Tailwind. Okay, and let's start with the basic authentication. So here we will be, covering basic authentication. All right, so let me quickly create a form. So let's name it as register user. Sorry, not register. We don't care about register, login user. Okay, and we will have an input field. Type would be email, and mm, let's have states. So we will have a email, comma set email equal to react dot use state. In case if you're not familiar with the React use state hook, I would highly recommend, checking it out. You will find a lot of resources on the same. But ideally, what the statement means is that this use state will give you two elements in an array. First would be the email, which will be, the value of that particular thing. So we are initializing it with an empty string, and set email is a callback function. So this function, what it does is it will, whenever you want to update this email field, you can call this function and then pass in whatever value you want to, and we will see how we are going to do it. Okay. So here we will do value equal to email and on change handler, which is basically which will be triggered on every time you change the input field. So we will say set email to event target dot value. So this is our input, first input, and then similarly we will have another input which will be type of password. And so we'll have to create one more. You could always use useref if you prefer, but I like useState. And if the number of inputs, increases to substantially large amount, let's say you are filling a registration form, in those cases I like something called use reducer, which is worth checking out. And react dot use reducer, and here you pass in the state and reduce initial state and I think reducer, initial state and reducer, and it makes it makes your code more predictable and things get more straightforward. And let me know in the comments if you want to know about this, and we will create a separate video on this one also. But yeah, when the state is big, instead of creating multiple set states, or let's say creating a nested form like name, email, password, and so on, you could always use something like use reducer, which will be very, very convenient to use. Okay. And you must be seeing that I'm using TypeScript, so don't be scared if you are not familiar with TypeScript. TypeScript is something, I would say, JavaScript had a lot of imperfections which have been corrected by TypeScript. And for me, I don't see any good language other than TypeScript. That is, of course, my personal opinion, but yeah, I like everything about TypeScript, from type safety, generics, and linting and everything. It's super awesome. With ESLint, things become even more cool. But anyways, let's move ahead. So we have email, password, and let's say we have a button. So we will have login. Okay. And let's make this as class name equal to uh, bg blue. I'm using Tailwind. Tailwind, lets you write code directly and let's basically avoids you unnecessary boilerplate and everything. Okay, so rounded SM. So basically this will be background blue, padding 2, small border radius of this. Okay, and I'm using a extension which gives me the definition right away. And of course we want the text to be white, and cursor to be pointer. Okay, so this is our first page. Let's quickly see how does it look like. It looks plain and we can't see the borders, so let's go back and let's add class names. I will use VS Code utility to add the class name simultaneously. Border, uh, and then border gray, let's say 400, and we will add padding here as well. So now let's see how does it look. Okay, it looks little bit better, but we want this to consume the whole space. Not in this way, so let's add a BR instead of, you know, so that's it. And then we may want to have some, or instead of, you know what, let me do something better. Let's have a flex. I like flexbox a lot. I also like grid, but flexbox slightly makes things more predictable. So class name, I mean, that's my experience on flex. And then flex row, of course it is by default, gap of 2. I think, let's see, sorry, we want flex column, not row. And we don't want these to be fully expandable, so let's say I think width equal to 2 by 4 maybe, or 1 by 2, something like this. Mm, and we will put the same here as well. Okay, and for the login button also by default it spans to the whole region. And let's have a padding here as well, padding of 2 pixels. Okay, so we have a very simple UI. And let's quickly have placeholders also. So placeholder equal to input your email address, and here we will have input your password. And of course you are free to decorate it further, and I don't like this color, so let's remove this. uh, but I'm keeping it as simple as this. Now we because our interest is to understand basic authentication. Okay, so now I will show you how you can quickly create an API. So let's create login.ts. So this will be our API endpoint. We need to import next API handler from next, and then we will use const handler next API handler equal to, why is my, yeah, request comma response. And then yeah, so here we will handle the request. So we want to get the authorization token, sorry, not authorization token. mm, actually we are going to send the payload. So authorization equal to request dot body dot authorization. And then once we get the authorization, we need to decode it, because as you remember from the previous tutorial where we said that how basic authentication works. So basic authentication, it takes base64 encoded string. Okay, and what is the string? String is nothing but, if it is username password, then it would be email and then colon and password. If it is, let's say, client ID secret, then it would be along the same lines, but it would be something like this: client ID colon secret. So accordingly we need to first we need to decode it. Okay, so const decoded token equal to let's quickly search grepper. I think it is grepper search base64 decode JavaScript, and we have the result. But I think these are deprecated. Let's quickly try this one. I think it is deprecated. Yeah, I think this declaration was marked as deprecated. I think buffer.from should work. So before even that, we need to check, if we have the authorization. If not of authorization, then we need to return a response dot status of 401, which is unauthorized dot JSON. Logged in is false and error is missing auth token. Okay, so if it is not authorized, we need to return like this. Else, if it is authorized, then we need to check. So what we need to do is const decoded token equal to buffer dot from authorization, and uh, it is because base64, so we need to take base64 dot to string of utf-8, and it is like this. So let's do it this way, and then const email comma password equal to decoded token dot split, and this is how we will split it. Okay, so let's quickly, we will first test this one out at least. So we will have, in this case, we will do a return uh, a response dot status 200. Let's keep it 200 for now. JSON email comma password. Okay. If you are not familiar with this shorthand notation, this basically means email will be email comma password will be password. That's it. Okay. So we have it like this. So now let's quickly export this handler, export default handler, and that's it. Now it will create an API for you. So first let's have a base64 encoded string. For that, let's use some base64 encode online, some online tool. Okay, and let's say email is email and password is password. So this is how you will send a base64 encoded string. After encoding, it looks like this. So let's copy this up, and let's go back. Let's go to Thunder client, add a new request, and it would be HTTP localhost 3000. By the way, this Thunder client is a substitution. If you are, using Postman and you don't want to switch, you can quickly get it through VS Code also. And then we have a login, and then I think get request should be good enough. Headers, we will pass in authorization, and here we will say basic, and of course we also need to make sure it is a basic token. So here authorization is request.body.authorization, and we need to do one more check here. uh, let's have if authorization, uh, actually let's const encoded token equal to authorization dot split, and split it like this and take it at the bottom, and we don't need else. Okay, so we split it like this. All right, and we also need to check, so token type comma encoded token. So it will come like this, basic, and then whatever token we had. So we need to check if token type not equal to basic, and let's make it smaller, lowercase, so that we don't miss anything. Dot to lowercase, if token type not return response dot status 401 dot JSON, and what are we using? Logged in as false, error invalid authentication type. Okay, because we are currently looking into how we can use base64. Okay, and if it is I mean basic only, then only we will go further and pass this here. Okay, so I think now everything is good. So let's go back to our new request, login, authorization, basic, and then the token that we generated. Let's go here, paste it here, send request. So it says missing auth token. Why would it say missing auth token? Let's say request.body. Let's see what we have. Body equal to, I think it's not request.body.authorization, it's just request.authorization. Request dot, why is it complaining? Okay, request.headers.authorization. Yep, now it should not complain. Let's see. So we are getting email password, and let's say if we change this a little bit, let's say uh, testing at gmail.com, some random password, and let's encode it out. So we get some base64 encoded string. Let's try this out as well. And if we send a request testing at gmail.com, okay, so until this point we are everything is fine. Okay, now let's go back to our files. Let's create another folder here. So I hope you got a clear idea of how you can actually create what do I say, a backend as well as front end within Next.js itself. Okay, so we will have this file where we will say users.json. Of course, it's never going to be stored like this, but just for the simplicity's sake, I am doing it like this, testing at example.com, and password is, what was the password? Mm, some random password. All right. Okay, so let's have this in our database, and now what we will do is we will import what was the name, users from users.json. Is not this in the root directory? Okay, I think I need to navigate to the root directory. So one way is through this, but let me show you a better way. tsconfig. Here we can add, base URL, which is dot, and I think it is paths. So if I do base URL, that should be more than enough. This will let me do, direct import. So search.json. Yeah. So you can see I am able to directly load these things right away. Okay. So now basically what this will do is this will load me the users object. If I hover over it, you can see that, we are getting this. All right. So now we need to check if that email exists or not. So what I will do is if users of email as key of type of users, this is some TypeScript thing, so you don't need to worry about it. In JavaScript it will be just like until this point, but in TypeScript we have to do it like this. If this does not exist, then we will return response dot status of, let me scroll down, 401 dot json, logged in as false, error, user is not registered with the app. Okay, so this is one thing. Now if the user exists, we also need to verify their password is correct, right? So we will do if password not equal to users of email as key of type of users. If password is not equal, then we will again return a response dot status of 401 dot json, logged in is false, and the error would be password is incorrect. Okay, but if it passes all of this, then we are sure that it is a valid username password. So this is all about the backend of basic authentication, and let's quickly test it out through that API we had. So let's say, mm, how do I go there? I think this one. Yeah. So let's say I do some changes. First, let's, try to log in directly. So we are getting some error. Let's see what it is. Cannot resolve users.json. Maybe I need to restart my server because tsconfig would, reload everything then. So we have server compiled, everything done. Let's try once again. It says user is not registered with the app. Okay, and let's see why is it saying that. Mm, okay, so it is not able to find it somehow. So let's quickly log it out. Users, comma, email, and see if it is really the case. And let's go and make a request. Meanwhile, we will see testing at gmail.com. Okay, testing at example.com. So we need to change testing at example.com to gmail.com, and I think now we are good. So yeah, login. Let's try to make a request again, and we are getting the response. But let's say if we alter this, let's say some random password one, and we change the encoding. So now we should get, invalid password thing. So paste it here and send the request. So it says password is incorrect. Now if we want to do the same for the front end, we could just have this, and we will have a simple onSubmitHandler const onSubmitHandler equal to this. And in here we will make a fetch call to the API route slash what was the name, whatever name you save, that is, that becomes the route. And then we will put the method as get, and then we will do content type, which is very important. Content type, which is application. I think it should be okay. Headers, not like this. Headers, inside headers we have content type. Is it like this? Yeah, I think this one. And then we have authorization. Authorization. I'm not very sure if it is authorization or authorization, but let's see. Here we will again, let's go to grepper search, base 64 encode JavaScript, and somewhere here buffer from. Yeah, so we will do same thing, buffer dot from. Here we will use string literals. Inside this we will use email and then password, and this will be dot toString and then base64. Okay, so this will be authorization. Headers, I think we don't need anything. Method is get, so everything looks fine to me. And let's have a then block, data, which will be again transformed to data.json. Again, we can create a wrapper function over fetch for these things if you don't want to do it again and again. But since we are doing it one time, so and instead of data, let's keep it as response. So response.json, after it is converted into JSON, we will just log, data equal to data. Okay. So let's see what response we get. Uh, we have it here on click on submit handler. So let's go, and we got a complaint, so we need to reload this page as well. Let's have our console open, and let's go to console. Uh, okay, I think we have missed something here. So so instead of this, it will be password, and this will be set password. So these two look good to me. So I think it was testing at gmail.com and the password was, let's quickly check what was the password. Some random password. All right, some random password. Let's try to log in. So we said like invalid authentication type. Okay, yeah, we also need to add a bearer token. So where is it? Buffer. We need to do another string literal. Mm, and we need to put a bearer, not bearer, basic. And I think there also we are doing basic, yeah, because it's a basic authentication and not bearer authentication, and it says data. Okay, so we can also pass is logged in here as well to keep consistency. um, Email password is logged in, sorry, not is logged in to true. Okay, so if we do it like this and try to log in, we get logged in, and if we try to change the password and again log in, so we get some error. So this is the idea of how you can use basic authentication, and this is you will see lot many places whenever you input your details to your login, and whenever you do it like this, it will be base64 encoded. So if I show you the request, go to network tab, let's clear everything up, clear it out here also, login. You will see if I made this request, and if I expand it a little bit more, if you see general, if I minimize response headers, request headers, you will see that we are passing in this basic token. Okay, and this is like the first step. So once you get the basic token, it generates a JWT, which is then used for session to make any kind of request and everything. So I hope this is clear. In case if you are confused about all of this, you should definitely refer to my first video where we are talking about this theoretical stuff, how the basic token works, how the exchange works, and and how this all web authentication works, and then you will get a better context of it. I hope this video was helpful for you. In case if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and soon we will also be seeing how we can implement JWT at the same time. Okay, then see you and have a great day. Thank you very much.